we've been hearing a couple of people in the national media be a little bit questionable of the Ravens' new offense. And some people even say that they made a mistake of changing coordinators. And listen, I don't think a lot of people honestly understand why the Ravens had to change their offense, why they needed to replace Greg Roman with Todd Monken. You look at Lamar Jackson and you look at how he struggled in the postseason, you wonder why. Well, look who's been calling the plays. Greg Roman. Oh, well, this is the guy who helped Lamar Jackson become an MVP. Yeah, he did. But you act like a quarterback can't outgrow his offensive coordinator. It happens all the time, not just in the NFL, but it happens in life. Sometimes we meet people that are not meant to be in our lives for our whole entire lifetime. Sometimes you meet people who are just meant to be in your life temporarily to help you reach another level. And then you move on and they move on. And that's what the Ravens are doing right now. They were really grateful for what Greg Roman brought to their organization, what he was able to do with Lamar Jackson, helping him win the MVP, helping guide them to the #1 seed that same season. And Greg Roman's rushing attacks, we already know, are some of the best in the NFL. And he has some really good run schemes. But when it comes to the passing game department, that's where he severely lacks. And that's why the Ravens had to make a change, because he was holding back Lamar Jackson as a passer. And it's funny how some of these same talking heads who are skeptical about the Ravens making the change to be more pass heavy are the same people who question Lamar Jackson's ability as a thrower of the football. So you're going to say, man, you don't know if the Ravens are doing the right thing by changing their offense, becoming more pass heavy, when they had an offense that was perfectly tailored to Lamar's skill set. But yet, you're going to be one of those same people who are going to be skeptical of the Ravens deciding to go in a different direction offensively. Look at the league, fam. They call it a passing league for a reason. There's a reason why you don't need a great running back to win the Super Bowl. There's a reason why you don't need to be top 5, top 10 in the NFL and rushing yards per game to be a championship caliber football team, because it is a quarterback-driven league. Whether you want to admit it or not, if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to go all that far unless you have elite coaching and a great team around him, i.e. the 49ers. And if you don't have a quarterback that's able to effectively throw the football, you're not going to go far in the postseason either. And Lamar Jackson is a really good passer, a way better passer than what most people give him credit for. He's been held back by not just the offensive coordinator and Greg Roman being inept at developing good passing concepts, but the Ravens, you got to remember what their philosophy was as an organization prior to this year. This was an organization that never really won having a lot of talent at wide receiver or even at quarterback. They won with Joe Flacco and having a bunch of decent wide receivers when they won the Super Bowl. With Lamar Jackson, though, it's completely different. It's not 2012 and 2013 anymore. It's 2023. You got to be able to throw the ball to win. Running the football is a good asset to have, and you definitely have to be able to run the football to win a championship. But you got to be able to be great throwing the football to win a Super Bowl. You don't need to be a great running team to win a championship. You just have to be good at it when necessary, which is what the Rams and the Bengals were when they both made it to the Super Bowl in 2021 or the 2021 NFL season. So when you look at the Baltimore Ravens and what has been the reasoning for why they've come up small in the postseason, it's been due to the lack of talent that they've had at wideout. It's not 2012 anymore. You can't just win with Dennis Pitta and a bunch of solid to below average wideouts and having a strong rushing attack. You need to have decent to solid quarterback play or better, and you need some good receivers. Ever since the Bengals took Jamar Chase in the first round a couple of years ago over Penei Sewell, and they went to the Super Bowl with him that same season, I realized that the league has started to change. You can still win, maybe not having the best of offensive lines, but you definitely need to make sure you got you some good receivers. All 4 teams that were in the conference championship games this past season had great receivers outside of Kansas City, but they still had Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. But the Bengals got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. Eagles got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. 49ers got Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. And the Ravens, who did they have other than Mark Andrews on this offense? Nobody. So with the Ravens, you improve your receiving core. You sign OBJ, who Lamar wanted, by the way. You draft Zay Flowers, who was regarded as the best wide receiver prospect coming out, in my opinion. And you also add Nelson Aguilar, who's going to give you pretty good depth. You got a good group of tight ends outside of Mark Andrews. A lot of people are overlooking Isaiah Likely. This is the most talented offense that the Ravens have had since ever, honestly. And if you're a Ravens fan listening to this right now, be honest. Is this or is this not the most talented offense that you guys have had going into a season? Because when's the last time the Ravens had a wide receiving core that was this good? When's the last time the Ravens ever had a wide receiver that was as good as OBJ? You can call OBJ washed all you want to, but this is the best receiver that the Ravens have had in this building since who? Steve Smith? And he was up there in age. So with adding more talent at receiver, giving Lamar Jackson the weapons that he needs to be successful to lead you to a deep playoff run, and giving him a offensive coordinator that's going to help elevate him and this whole entire passing attack are going to be pluses. And these were changes that needed to happen. The Ravens needed to make a change at offensive coordinator. You want to know why? Because the offense just wasn't cutting it. They weren't having the same success the past 2 seasons that they were in 2019. The offense was getting stale. And you're not going to win too many games when you're down the touchdown. You need a game-winning score to get the game to overtime, and you're running 3 tight end sets with 2 minutes left on the clock. Are you serious, fam? 3 tight end sets with 2 minutes left to win a game or take a game to overtime? And we're in 2023? That's crazy. Real crazy. And for Greg Roman, he's not a bad OC. I think he's a really good OC. Shoot, if I was a head coach and I had a young QB that had a similar skill set to Lamar or the QBs that Greg Roman has worked with in the past, I would hire him in a heartbeat for a couple of years. And then after that, when my quarterback develops as a passer, I will move on from Greg Roman and find somebody else who can get my QB and my offense to a next level, to a next gear. And that's what the Ravens are hoping that Todd Monken can do. Look into Todd Monken's background. He isn't just a college coach, the label some people try to throw on him. He also was the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, even though he didn't call plays. He called plays Dirk Cutter's final season in Tampa. And you know how good the Buccaneers passing attack was that year? It was number 1 in the NFL with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston. So when you look at Todd Monken's resume, this is somebody who knows how to get the most out of the passing attack. And with all the weapons that Todd Monken has at his disposal, plus Lamar Jackson, not just how good he is as a runner, but plus he's a way better passer than what he's given credit for, this offense is going to be the best that the Ravens have had in years. I don't know when's the last time the Ravens had an offense that was as good as what it could be this year, but this offense is going to be really scary this year. And the reason for that is because they made a change when it came to their offensive coordinator. You know, in life, complacency doesn't really get you anywhere. To keep advancing in life, you got to make changes. You know, for me to keep this channel up, for me to get this channel and this podcast to the next level, I got to adapt. I got to get with the times. I can't be running this podcast like I would be running a podcast a decade from now. You feel me? I got to adapt. The Ravens had to adapt. Smash Mouth football, winning football games the way they were was nice, but it wasn't going to be something that they were going to be able to do long term. You weren't going to be able to keep Lamar Jackson around 10 plus years as your franchise QB, running the offense that you were with him. Lamar Jackson has proven plenty of times that he's more than a capable passer. This dude is a really good passer, and I really wish that people would put more respect on Lamar Jackson's passing abilities. If you're struggling to get behind the Ravens' philosophical change on offense because you have concerns about Lamar as a passer, please go watch some Lamar All-22 film. This dude is a better thrower of the football than what many people on Twitter make him out to be. This dude is a really good passer, a really solid passer. I'm not saying he's one of the best in the game, but he's not no slouch, fam. Honestly, I'm getting a little bit sick and tired. If you're one of these people who are questioning this offensive change because you don't know if Lamar Jackson can cut it as a passer, cut it out, fam. Cut it out. This is somebody who is completing over 60% of his passes. Yes, he has regressed a little bit statistically since his MVP year, but it's not like this dude went from great to terrible. He went from great to, still pretty good. Not as good as what he was his MVP year, but that will change this season due to the change that they made with this offense. I can't really get behind the people who try to question Lamar Jackson's ability as a thrower when he's proven plenty times throughout his career that he's more than capable of being able to win games without his athleticism. His athleticism is part of what makes him special, but he's also a really accurate thrower of the football. And with these wide receivers that he has, he's going to be even better than what we've seen in the past. He doesn't have to run the football as much anymore. You want to know why? Because there's going to be more opportunities to throw the football to open wideouts. When you're running 3, 4, multiple tight end sets, you're not going to have a lot of receivers on the field. And with the wide receivers that the Ravens have had over the last couple of years, they haven't really been good enough to where you can only have 2 on the field and have a bunch of tight ends. Greg Roman's version of 4 wide receiver sets is 3 tight ends on the field. And if you think I'm making that up, go look up what he said in a production interview before the Ravens had a Sunday Night Football matchup. Chris Collinsworth asked him about the criticisms with his offense and the lack of receivers that they utilize. And he said, tight ends are like receivers to us in my offense. Yeah, big red flag. You hear those statements and you think a change didn't need to be made? Or didn't need to be made? I think the reason why people have skepticism about this is because you look at the Ravens and you're like, okay, they're having all this success. Why change the offense? Because the offense wasn't as good as what it could be due to Greg Roman holding it back, not being able to be inept at elevating this passing attack. So if you're asking yourself why the Ravens offense needed to change, stop looking at the records and just watch the game. Stop trying to judge everything from the box score because the box score doesn't tell you everything you need to know unless you can actually watch the game and put context to those statistics. And even though the Ravens had great records when Lamar Jackson was healthy before he went down with those injuries the last 2 years, if you watch this Ravens team, you would know that this offense wasn't that great as what the stats may indicate and what the win-loss record may indicate. In some capacity, you can say that Lamar Jackson kind of made this offense work at times. Even though Greg Roman had success with Tyler Huntley is a similar quarterback like the ones he's worked with and had success with in the past. As a matter of fact, when you look at Tyler Huntley play, he's like a great value brand version of Lamar Jackson. So, of course, not too much was going to change, but when you look at this Ravens offense in general, yes, they had some really good seasons under Greg Roman. They never had the season that made you go, they got to get rid of Greg Roman. And I think that's why there are some concerns and some skepticism around this change on offense. Because you look at what the Ravens were able to do, and you're like, okay, if you're having success, if it ain't broken, you're still winning games, then there's no need to change anything. But you see, if the Ravens didn't make any changes on offense, they possibly may not be as good as a team as they are right now. So change is necessary in order to be successful. In order to be successful, you got to be good at adapting. And if you can't adapt, you're not going to make it far. Complacency is key to not being successful in life. You got to make changes. You got to adjust. And what the Ravens did was make changes. They got uncomfortable. Yes, there is a chance that this may not work out. But given Todd Monken's history and his track record and his resume, this should work based on history and what he's done. But this change had to happen. Lamar Jackson outgrew Greg Roman. You got to get somebody in there who can get more from Lamar. And if you thought that Lamar Jackson was already insanely talented, you haven't seen anything yet, because there are still people who are skeptical about Lamar Jackson's ability as a thrower of the football. And you're about to see why so many Ravens fans are so excited about why they hired Todd Monken. Todd Monken is about to make this Ravens offense look like it was a super team or a super offense. With how good he is as a play caller and how well he gets the most out of the passing attack, this Ravens offense is going to be the best that it's been in a very long time, and they had to make the change.